three. Horton back to the end zone.
48-yard play. Guess who? Body up the middle, making another move to the outside. 15, 10, end zone again.
Keeps it. Nice move by Brown. He's got space. He's got 6. 35-yard touchdown for Byron Brown. A record-setting night for the South Florida quarterback.
Down so far, a little bit of a high snap. Genty right up the middle. Genty has room. Ashton Genty, give him 6.
Second and long. Lagar tries to fit it in. Ramos, it does. Ramos stays up. The show's off. It's 4-3 Wheels. Incredible effort for Royals.
The G5 Hive. All G5, all the time.
Welcome to the G5 Hive Live, where we are excited to bring you the G5 college football coverage you love each and every week. I am Luke, and I'm joined by my co-host, Justice. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching us on X, please give us a follow, a like, and a retweet. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. The G5 Hive merchandise store is now live. Link in the YouTube comments as well as pinned on our X page and here at the bottom of the screen. The G5 Hive All Mid-American Conference, or MAC team. We've got offense. Quarterback Parker Navarro, Ohio. Running back L.J. Henderson, Buffalo. Running back Terrion Stewart, Bowling Green. Wide receiver, Juwan Newton, Toledo. Wide receiver, Coleman Owen, Ohio. Wide receiver, Adrian Norton, Akron. Tight end, Harold Fannin Jr., Bowling Green. Offensive tackle, Jack Sherwin, Western Michigan. Offensive tackle, Tyrone Tayo, Ball State. Offensive guard, Addison West, Western Michigan. Offensive guard, Mickey Revolinsky, Eastern Michigan. Center, Jacob Gideon, Western Michigan. And kicker, Dom Jobin, Miami.
I was trying to think of players that we might have debated for the MAC, and the only ones I can come to is maybe some of the other receivers, like a Javon Tracy at Miami. I think that's really the only other position, or the only position on the offensive side where we had some thoughts about in terms of who should be on our all MAC team. One thing's interesting is the kicker, right? Miami lost their kicker, Graham Nicholson, to Alabama late in sometime in August, right? I feel like. And they turn around and replace them with another all-conference kicker. So maybe Miami, Ohio has something going there with special teams and with the kickers.
Yeah, the only other player that we were kind of debating on was that wide receiver position and Tracy there at Miami of Ohio, right?
Yep.
So pretty cut and dry, I think, from the offensive standpoint.
And they have, Parker Navarro's returning, L.J. Henderson's returning, Coleman Owen graduates, Harold Fannin Jr. is off to the NFL. I believe Adrian Norton is in the portal. I don't think he has declared. A lot of those offensive linemen, though, the ones that aren't out of eligibility, they've all kind of been picked up in the portal. But, yeah, Parker Navarro, L.J. Henderson are returning. Those are two big stars to keep in the MAC. All right, let's move over to the defensive side of things. We have edge Bradley Weaver, Ohio. Defensive tackle Skylar Gill Howard, Northern Illinois. Defensive tackle Devontae O'Malley, Northern Illinois. Edge Brian Ugwu, Miami. Linebacker Sean Dolak, Buffalo. Linebacker Red Murdoch, Buffalo. linebacker Matt Salopek, Miami, safety MACtion Hook, Toledo, safety David Carter Jr., Eastern Michigan, cornerback Jordan Oladokin, Bowling Green, cornerback Rayon Strader, Miami, and punter Avery Book, Akron. I don't know. I mean, I think maybe a little bit of linebacker. I mean, Dolak and Murdoch were unquestioned. I think it was that third pick, that Matt Salopek.
Yep, Salopek.
And there was, and I mean, I'm trying to think of the guy's name. I want to say he was at Akron. He ended up going to the portal too. His name escapes me. But linebacker, I think, was probably the one where we had some debate in terms of who should make the All-MAC team. Unlike the offense, most of these guys are gone, either out of eligibility or they've left in the portal. But Red Murdoch I don't think he can enter now. I think the Buffalo's it's been past their way past their 5 days since their bowl game. So I'm assuming Red Murdoch will be back at Buffalo next year. So that's big for them, right? They do lose Sean Dolak, who had a year of eligibility left, but announced that he will be going off to the NFL. So did Jordan Oladokin, the cornerback there for Bowling Green. Rayon Strader, a great cornerback for Miami. He was a freshman All-American last year, All-Conference guy this year, and he's moved up to the P4. But
I think the other name that I can't remember the other name that we were talking about, but just amazing what Northern Illinois was able to do on the defensive side. Have 2 D tackles. Obviously, both of them from Northern Illinois make our team. It was like, can we have 2 Northern Illinois? Because like there was like 3 people that were deserving. I was like, I don't know, they were like atop of the Havoc rate and all year. Like we got to go with them. Sometimes you can just have a couple studs on a team, and that defensive line there at Northern Illinois is pretty good.
Yeah, the Northern Illinois defensive line was good. The 2 D tackles, the defensive ends at Ohio, with Bradley Weaver and Marcel Walker Burgess. We ended up going with Brian Ugwu as our other choice, but yeah, there were a lot of great choices along the D line, and linebackers. The Bash Brothers, Buffalo, 2 of the top 2 tacklers, I believe, in all of college football, both on the same team. That was a pretty remarkable feat. You don't see that very often.
Something that we talked about it at the end of each conference this last week. If you're looking at the MAC, looking ahead for 2025, who are your early favorites?
Ohio. Yeah, I gotta put Ohio up there. They've lost some in the portal, but they haven't lost a lot. I think I would put Ohio. I would have said Buffalo,
Yes,
but they lost. They lost quarterback CJ Agbana. I guess. I mean, he can still return, I assume, to Buffalo, but he entered the transfer portal. Otherwise, I would have had them up there.
Rumors are around him that it's possibly go to back up at Florida, or back up, not even be a backup, but back up to a backup. But just another quarterback in the room at Georgia is kind of what I'm seeing out there.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. They did get Taquan Robertson, formerly of Penn State, and I think most recently Kansas State. I don't know. I've never really been super impressed with him wherever he's been, but maybe dropping down to the G5 is what he needs.
As long as you can hand the ball off to Alj, I mean, that's all you need to do.
I mean, Miami, right? I mean, so Ohio's number 1 for me. And then I think it's either Toledo or Miami. And the reason why I put Miami up there is they're getting DeQuan Finn, come play quarterback for them. DeQuan Finn was at Toledo, was a great player at Toledo, left Toledo, went to Baylor, I think he actually won the job. Then he got hurt, and then he
Yeah.
lost the job at Baylor. So he's coming back to the MAC to play for Miami. So that'd be
I wanna
real
know that.
interesting when Miami and Toledo play each other.
Yeah, I want to know that. Like, hey, were there bridges burnt? Because then you go back to Ohio, and then you're with the other Ohio team, and how much was on. There's a lot of interesting things to that story. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, I think for me it'd probably be Ohio, and then I don't know, Miami, Toledo. I don't know. And Buffalo, depending, I mean, Buffalo returns a lot, but yeah, I mean, the quarterback, not having a quarterback's kind of a big deal. Billy said he didn't understand why you'd go to be a third string at Georgia and start at Buffalo. The answer to that's pretty simple: dollars, dollars. Money would be the reason why you would do that for sure. You're not doing it for playing time, but I mean, people make odd decisions all the time, and so we saw the Charlotte quarterback, Deshaun Purdy, went to Florida, and then he turned around and says, "Well, I'm not going to Florida now. I didn't go there to be a backup. I don't know in what world he thought he was gonna start over DJ Lagway, but
probably didn't know until he got there. He's like, oh, this guy's built different.
I mean, and you see it with freshmen too, right? You see Jaron Callaway Sakapulotele commit to Oregon, flip to Oregon, enroll at Oregon, and then realize, hey, man, like I'm not going to be the starter, and then bounce as a true freshman, bounce to California. So, yeah, stuff happens.
Right. Getting into our G5 Hive Mid-American Conference MAC Offensive Player of the Year. Offensive wise, we have tight end Harold Fannin Jr., Bowling Green. Harold had 117 receptions on 156 targets for 1,555 yards and 10 touchdowns. He even added 65 yards on the ground on 9 rushing attempts and had a touchdown. His receiving yards were number 1 among FBS tight ends and number 1 overall. His 1,555 receiving yards are number 1 all-time in FBS history by a tight end. His 117 receptions were number 1 among FBS tight ends and number 1 overall. His 117 receptions is number 1 all-time in FBS history by a tight end. His 10 touchdowns were number 1 among tight ends in FBS and number 13 overall. He had 8 games with 100-plus receiving yards, which was number 1 among FBS tight ends, and tied for first overall. He had 2 games with 100-plus receiving yards versus AP top 25 teams. That was number 1 amongst FBS tight ends and tied for second overall. His 873 yards after the catcher, Yak, was number 1 among FBS tight ends and number 1 among all players. He also had 74 first downs, which was number 1 amongst FBS tight ends and number 1 amongst all FBS players. I'm going to say this a couple times in this podcast, but congrats, Harold, on a historic season. Can't often say historic, but there was a lot of history made this year in the G5, and Harold Fannin Jr., definitely one of those names that highlighted everything. Not only was he a great tight end, but you could put all of his stuff as among wide receivers, and he would have blown, the doors. As Michael Jordan would say, the ceiling is the roof.
The ceiling is the roof is the ceiling. The roof is I think is what he said.
But it was just amazing what he did, and it being at that tight end position where he could have done everything. I can't remember what the number was, but that bowl game, he had like 22 targets and like 17 receptions. Like he just had a great season, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, can't argue with this, right? Like there was no one else that we would have considered for the MAC Offensive Player of the Year. I mean, the guy had a tight end season for the record books. He was also a unanimous All American, and yeah, but both our MAC honorees were unanimous All Americans. So that should tell you something about the types of seasons they both had. But yeah, Harold Fannin Jr. certainly deserves all the awards and accolades he gets, and we'll be seeing him get drafted here come April. All right, our Mid-American Conference Defensive Player of the Year is none other than linebacker Sean Dolak from Buffalo. Sean had 168 total tackles, 82 solos, 5 pass defenses, 76 stops, 19 tackles for loss, 13 quarterback pressures, 6.5 sacks, 5 interceptions, one of which he returned for a touchdown, and a missed tackle rate of 4.4%. He led all of college football in tackles and stops. He ranked second in solo tackles, fourth in all of college football for interceptions as a linebacker, and seventh in tackles for loss. Quite an impressive season that led to Sean being a unanimous All-American. Congratulations, Sean, on the amazing season. Once again, like
that 4.4% missed tackle rate, he had 168 total tackles. So that means he missed 7.39 tackles.
Crazy. He had a phenomenal season. Again, we didn't consider anyone else. Really, the only other person you could consider would have been his teammate Red Murdoch, who was number 2 in the nation in tackles. But yeah, I mean, Sean had a phenomenal season. I mean, to be was it 4th in interceptions in all of college football as a linebacker? That's pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, he just all around run support coverage. He just had a phenomenal year. Like I said earlier, he declared for the NFL draft, and it's sometimes it's a long shot to see these kids get drafted from the G5, but Sean, I think he will. Might be late. It might be 6th, 7th round, but I think someone's going to draft Sean, and I think he's going to make a heck of an NFL player. Folks are going to overlook him because of who he played for, but I mean, I thought he's a good linebacker. I think he can play linebacker at the next level. And that's it for tonight.
All right. So heads up for you guys. We're not going to have any live shows for the next 2 weeks. We're still trying to iron out a couple details. Again, we're not going to have a live show next Monday. We figured a lot of people will be tuning into the national championship game. We want to watch it too. So we're going to be watching that national championship game. We're going to hope to maybe have a recording that goes out. I don't know, Justice, that would go out
the 27th.
So it'll go out. Well, it'll be on that Monday of the championship game. There's a chance that we might have something.
Oh, and that'll be the following Monday, the 27th.
Okay. Because we were talking about possibly two things.
Maybe we haven't confirmed the first one. So for sure, we will have a recorded show coming out on the 27th. We'll be talking with someone that runs an NIL collective, and we're going to talk about the impacts of the House settlement, revenue sharing, NIL, and the impacts that the G5 have seen from that. That will be out on, like I said,
Monday,
Monday the 27th. We'll put it out we'll probably release it that morning. So it'll be on our YouTube channel. Real quick, JT says how many G5 teams now? There were 65 if you did not include Washington State and Oregon State. This year, we're adding Missouri State and Delaware, who will become part of Conference USA. So that kicks us up to 67. And if you want to include Washington State and Oregon State, which that's what they are G5, it would be 69. That also includes UConn as an independent. UMass was independent, and we've included them. They will be in the MAC next year, so they will be officially a G5. So that's how we get to the 69. You got all the officials, the official G5s, plus you want to include the Pac-2 and UConn would get you to 69.
Nice. Yeah. Again, no show, live show Monday, January 20th, but come back and join us in 2 weeks, and we'll dive into that NIL and always bring you up to date on the latest news and happening in the world of G5 college football. Again, next 2 shows, no live show. There's going to be at least one recording that will drop Monday, January 27th. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching us on X, please give us a retweet, a like, and a follow. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please subscribe and leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Thank you all for your support. Until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.